So it's time for the Arctic Knight to finally take on Dark Dungeon's Chimps to its max and win with so much cash spare that you could buy an entire flying fortress or even an anti-balloon after beating round 100 with the cash spare. And after that, Dorio's going to be taking the strategy and we're going to find some optimizations to get the all-time LCC with 129,000 cash spare on Dark Dungeon's Chimps. So that's pretty crazy, and let's get right into it. So starting off with this early game, it was pretty tricky and annoying. I personally am a huge hater of the Dark Dungeon's Chimps early game. It's just so much, and I was getting really unlucky with the way that Silas would snipe balloons, because I'm trying to cut a lot of stuff, and in order to do that, you have Silas set on weird targetings and the dart ahead of it set on even weirder targetings, and you just try to get Silas to snipe stuff. But the placements and just the RNG of it that I had was really not working in my favor at all. So I did have to spend a little bit to get past that, but that's alright, we got through it. I'll be talking about the optimizations that came up later, but for those in the early game, it was really simple. Just Silas gets moved down so you get better snipes, more controlled, and then the glue will get cut out for a mortar, which will become a signal flare later. And the reason why it will become a signal flare is for round 95 actually, and I'll say that why, because it might seem odd as all the towers do have camo. Now this run is 125,000 cash spare, which is still a lot, but the reasons that make it different is a few small ones, but this really is the biggest one. Now, I had issues with beating round 100. In fact, I did another run with 2 Arctic Knights and Silas that completely just dead-ended to round 100. It was going to be 125k cash spare, and I mostly optimized stuff out of the early game too. But the reason for the cash difference, even though that they're going to get the same amount of cash spare, yet that one failed against 100, was because I had 2 Arctic Knights on the top and I couldn't beat round 100 with that. So basically, I found a interesting solution where you can get 2 villages to get range for drums on a bottom Arctic Knight, which does more damage against round 100, which I thought was pretty cool. So because of this, you are forced to get 2 villages, which isn't worth it in the typical sense, but because I am going to need a village to buff the range of the village, you kind of just have to get it, so might as well get the discount on that too. But because of that, it's really going to be wasting about $1,000 from having that whole other village, and the discounts are kind of neutral. They didn't really honestly do much or even wasted a little bit of cash, so that was just a little bit of a bummer. But the big thing about that is that was not needed at all in the first place. In fact, I was actually completely goofy in that those 30 minutes I tried looking for spots to kill round 100 with 2 topside mermonkeys was all in vain, because there indeed is a spot, and after yeetus said, "Isn't there a spot for that?" I looked a little bit further and I did find the 2 spots that bounced around. There's a spot where shoving it all the way to the left side from where that top mermonkey is, and then having one directly underneath it at a good angle can get 14,000, just above 14,000 pops on the bad on round 100, and with 2 of them you just barely have enough to crack it open. And it's not honestly really hard to pull off, so the reason why I did not see that in the first place is kind of a gigantic skill issue in my opinion. If I had figured that out just like with a little more brain cells or something, I would have been able to save definitely a lot on this run, and that was really kind of the big thing that was able to be optimized in Dorio's run. On top of that, having the Arctic Knight on the bottom is significantly worse for every round that isn't round 100, because a lot of the projectiles get stuck on that little lip that it's under. I had it for that lip because it does a lot of damage bouncing up and down between those 2 walls. As it's very close, it will take out pretty much most of the bad actually, and then the other Arctic Knight just has to do a little bit more damage. But when it's down there against other rounds like 95 in particular, a lot of the projectiles are going to be stuck at the bottom and never make it up to the top, which is pretty annoying. So doing that, having the Arctic Knight at the top, it saves a lot more money, and it's a lot better against every other round that isn't 100. But with it just barely being possible with the 2 at the top, it definitely is worth it. So I'd be able to save $1,000, and on top of that, I had 1 ice up there, 1 extra top intel ice to be able to slow stuff like 98, 97 more. That could have been cut too just because of all that extra power. And the Arctic Knights are just crazy. They are bugged. It doesn't do a whole lot, but it does help a little bit, I feel like. So that bug will basically make it so that the projectiles won't leave through the small tiny little exit cracks. It's just 1 tiny little one at the bottom, so sometimes like a few might normally fall down there, which are now being saved because of the bug. But I believe it does help, and it probably will help cutting some things if compared to a run without it. And then I'll also have the Moab shove, just shoving everything. This was a solution that I found that was pretty cool for stalling rounds with this setup, because 1 Juggernaut and 1 Ice Monkey at the far left there for the cleanup cannot kill 3 Moabs, which are left from after stalling a BFB. So what you do is you stall the BFB, it dies, then you stall 1 Moab inside the BFB and use an ability again, and by the time that the Moab goes down, then you have the ability at least almost all the way up. If it's a regular Moab, if it's fortified, you'll get it all the way up, which is really good, so you can stall out every single round that isn't a ZOMG like that. But for those rounds, we'll come up with some other solutions and kind of work around that, and everything will work out pretty easily. Of course, it's just a little annoying having that 1 Mermonkey at the bottom that has projectiles kind of stuck in the bottom too, is making things a little bit weaker. So with that, the run is definitely a lot easier. Now going into round 95, this one took a little bit of timing and a bunch of micro with the heli, but this is one change that made it a lot harder in the optimization, and that is that I have a Juggernaut in the middle. Now, it made kind of the early game very, very free, but it isn't too hard, or early and mid game, but it isn't too hard without it. The one thing that's different though is on round 95 with the signal flare, it's cheaper, it takes out the early leads, cutting that glue at the bottom. You use it to be able to take out the purples in the middle of round 95 because Silas and the Arctic Knights can't kill it. But it doesn't do a very good job at it, and you're forced to use the level 10 ice wall on round 95. So that really is the only change in the run that Dorio did compared to mine. Everything else looked relatively the same. I was there kind of in the stream looking on, and he is definitely very good at the game, so he was able to come up with some extra like ideas and solutions to maybe beat some of these rounds like 98. But basically the gist of everything else is pretty much the same, and you do the same stalling, all that kind of stuff. But that round 95 was very much different and a lot harder than what I had to deal with. Round 99 was pretty chill. It just took a little bit to kind of stall that Moab out and get lucky with that. And then round 100, I'm able to take that out with the help of that bottom lip mermonkey. But if I had two at the top and move them over just a little bit, it would have worked either way. So that's just what we get for being silly goofy like that. But this run was definitely a lot of fun. It was a lot easier than I thought. It didn't really honestly feel like it was that difficult to do. I'm really just gonna be honest. But these mermonkeys are incredibly busted, especially on this map. And with the end of this, I'll be having this last mermonkey ability up to take out the insides of the UMG. We'll get a wrap of what was the Dark Dungeons LCC for one single day, or more like I think around 12 hours. But it was really, really cool, lots of fun. And seeing this amount of cash bear in Chimps mode is kind of crazy. But to round it all off, I'd say a big thanks to Dorio for doing the optimization of this. It was pretty awesome to see it get improved, and now as an all-time LCC, there's maybe one thing that you can cut in this, but nobody really wants to go through all that effort again. So check him out. He makes guides. Sometimes they don't work though.
Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!